This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Detroit is the greatest!
Straight up light you on fire for a coney dog right now.
Darren McCarty comes back to Neiman in front of him. McCarty draws. McCarty in. McCarty scores! He makes Memphis a goal! Darren McCarty!
Stafford takes, throws, end zone, Calvin, touchdown, Detroit Lions!
What's up, everybody? It's another episode of the Motor City Sports Rant on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I am Jason Jarvie. Follow me on Twitter at Jarvie the King. Go Lions! Yeah! I like that drop. That's finally, it's a drop that I actually enjoy. You know, you have me you're a dick. It sounds kind of lame. I like that drop. And the guy who made that drop is sitting across from me. He's with me every week. John the Doc Macaroon. How's it going?
If you wonder why I have an extra pep in my step, I had myself a wild weekend. Celebrated my 6th wedding anniversary. Love my wife. Had a great time. Had a great chance to spend a nice evening with her. Got to go down to MGM and had a great experience. It made it all around a great time by spending time with her, having fun, relaxing, getting away from everything, and then meeting some Detroit Lions and national media.
Well, before we dive into that, what is the key? So 6 years of marriage. It lasts longer than, unfortunately, a lot of marriages last nowadays. If you can give one key to the people out there, what is it?
Behind closed doors, I am the man. I'm the king behind closed doors, if you know what I mean.
Hello, ladies.
That's all I can say, because if you look at me, obviously being all of 5'4", probably dripping wet, I'm a psychologist. You know something's going on, so the key to a great relationship is make sure the action happens behind closed doors, and I take care of that.
Wait a second. You said, so you're saying behind closed doors?
I'm the king. I'm an expert.
We're going to be expecting your divorce next year? Dude, that sounds like a recipe for disaster. I mean, I hope you're joking a little bit, but
no, I'm joking. The key is, and my wife and I took a couple Uber rides from the casino to another casino, so we had a good time. And so the Uber driver that we had was really nice and funny, and it was the first time I ever got to experience Uber. It was perfect. No problems at all. 2 safe drivers, one middle-aged man who was married 18 years. And so obviously, like you've asked me, we asked him. He's like, "You've been married 6? Oh, you guys are relatively young." And he says, "I've been married 18 years." And he said, my wife asked, she's like, what's the secret to a long-lasting marriage? And he said, "It's simple. I just tell my wife, 'Yes, dear.'"
Exactly. That is my biggest advice to anybody is,
"Yes, dear."
Let your wife run the shots. Let her call the shots, and because it's really, really not worth it. But yeah, so you were at the MGM Grand, and you met some people who might be a little famous, and you apparently graced them with letting them take a picture with you. Isn't that correct?
Yes, and it's very interesting sometimes when you see someone that you think a lot of people would know, but they're kind of in a quiet area. You would think the entrance to a casino, a lot of people would know who Golden Tate was. So I'm walking into the casino. I'm pretty happy they don't card me. I'm walking from the hotel. If you know anything about MGM, from the hotel to the tap bar, there's an entrance there. So I go through the entrance, and all of a sudden I'm walking with my wife, and right there in the corner, I look, and distinct features and all, by himself. And at the time, it was a Sunday evening. It was relatively quiet. And so I'm looking around, I'm like, "That's Golden Tate." So he's on his phone looking down. I'm like, "Golden." I said it out loud, like from the distance from me to you. He doesn't say anything. So I'm like, oh, maybe it wasn't him. Because I'm like, we had a couple drinks. I'm like, was that him? So I walk and I'm like, I think that's Golden Tate. So I shoot a text to Adam.
You said Maple Bars.
I said, wow, that's a nice gold chain too he's rocking there. So I'm like, I think one of the Lions is here. I'm going to go find him because I really want to say hi. It was cool. So I'm like, it could have been him, maybe not. You go back and forth. All of a sudden, I'm standing right in the aisleway. Him and another Detroit Lion walk right up to me. They're walking in my path, so I kind of just stand there and go, "Hey, Golden, I'm a big fan, dude." I'm like, "Nice to meet you. I do a podcast in town. I'm here with my wife celebrating my anniversary. would you mind taking a picture with me? He's like, yeah, dude, no problem. He was nice to my wife. He's like, happy anniversary. I shook his hand. I said, hey, man, stay healthy. Good luck this year. And that was about it. And then he kept about his business. It was all about maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds. But he seemed a little bit surprised that I knew who he was. But I knew who he was. I didn't have no problem asking for a picture. He probably was like, in his mind, I could probably tell with the wheels turning, he's probably was like, seriously, can I just go out in peace? But it is a Sunday night after a preseason game, and he just wanted to have a night out with the boys. I hope if he threw dice, I hope he won. I mean, he's got a lot of funds to give.
That is really cool. That's and I think Golden Tate, even though he's just now being established as the number one receiver, and probably in the next year or two, people will really recognize him, out in town. And I think how tall was he? Because he's a smaller guy, isn't he?
I would say, yeah. If you look at
you're a small guy as well, so he probably towers over you.
Go to our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. I posted the photo, and so I was talking to Jerry Mallory when he posted his podcast. I'm like, you know what? If I was only 4 inches taller, a little bit more muscular, he's not that much taller than me. You could tell he's obviously in much better shape than I am, but
Clearly.
he's not that tall. And if you look at him, his stature, he's not exactly built like a statue. He's not like 6'1", 300, he's not 6'1", 300 pounds of chiseled muscle. He's not a lineman. He's like built like a regular dude. A dude that works out in the gym, and he was very nice and gracious and took a photo with the doc. It was cool.
And hopefully that regular dude toughness will keep him healthy because we think that you may have cursed him at this point.
A lot of people, when I posted the tweet, sent me a text and were like, are you serious? Golden Tate met the doc. Some people have him on their fantasy team, and they're like, oh, man, we were hoping to get a lot of production out of him. Now his production is going to go down. Is he going to last the entire season? Is he going to have a worse statistical season than he's ever had before after meeting me? I am going to turn that around. I think finally that potentially all our anger, all the vitriol that I have for the Detroit Lions might be turning around in the cosmos because the two universes collided. I met Golden Tate. Now that he's been touched with, good luck, from a guy that's pretty successful, married, has a lot going for him, very smart, maybe now that can rub off on him, and we're going to start off the year maybe with some wins, and maybe, just maybe, when the Lions turn it around this year, get to the postseason, we all will say that it all started off with a simple handshake and a, hey, stay healthy, good luck this year. And you never know, man. You never know. You don't believe it?
Go Lions! Yeah! And when you texted me that picture and you said that, we're doomed, he's going to be hurt now. Golden Tate, he's a durable guy. And that's one of the things I've seen in his time here is that whenever he'll take big hits, he pops right back up. He isn't a guy who he'll limp off and he'll take plays off. He's a guy, he's going to give you everything he's got. And I think we definitely have that going for him. And another thing that I would have to say, for the Lions, you're saying that this is the turnaround. My wife made the comment to me that the Lions have always done really well in the preseason, and then they've sucked in the regular season. Well, maybe this is just the turn of events that we're going to completely suck it up in the preseason, and we'll turn it around in the come week one.
I'm one of those people that watches the games and kind of takes and makes an opinion based upon what I'm watching. A lot of people after the game, because the Lions put such garbage on tape on Saturday, they go out to Baltimore and they don't even score an offensive touchdown. It looks terrible. Lots of penalties.
You got to be excited about a 60-yard Matt Prater field goal.
Exactly. Not a lot to get excited about for real. And so people are all coming out and going, listen, just dismiss the preseason. Do not pay attention to it. Whatever happens, they're not even running the real plays. They're just running variations to see what people do in different situations. But the Lions weren't even able to execute that. So you have to take a little bit of stock in that you are, scheduled to appear on a Saturday night to play football. You don't have to win the game. You don't even have to look decent. But the way that they looked was less than even, it looked less than what a practice would look like with all the penalties, with how they looked disorganized. They didn't look like they came out with really much passion. And so it is a little bit concerning. And the reason why you say that is this is the Detroit Lions. This isn't a storied organization that has a track record of any success. Whenever you start critiquing teams, I think the rest of the league can have the attitude of, don't worry about it, we're not doing nothing. But the Detroit Lions have no track record. They're basically a team that is so bad and has such a bad history that we all feel like they're starting from nothing. And so you have to show something in the preseason to say, hey, we're going in the right direction, because every time the Lions go out there, we're all looking for something bad to happen. We don't have any confidence. Basically, a lot of people equate the Lions to be like an expansion team. They don't have any confidence. So we want to see at least a semblance in the third preseason game of looking like an NFL team. And so when you go out there and lay a dud, it makes a lot of fans go, here we go again. This is what we've seen before. This is what we're going to see again. It's very interesting to look at, Jason, the bipolar nature of the fans in Detroit and the media too. When the schedule first came out, I was at 10 wins. Now that I've seen more of the play, I'm already down to 7-8. I do think, though, there's a stronger chance that they're going to have a good season this year because of the weekend schedule. But you can't play like that in the third preseason game and have everybody be quiet. You just can't.
And I'll agree with you. I think people are entitled to their opinions, and they're entitled to question what this team is doing. And it's okay to be worried, but you still have to keep in mind that it is only a preseason game. I don't think you can really. If this was a regular season game, they would have played much harder. We would have seen Matt Stafford for an entire 4 quarters. We would have seen all of our starters the entire game, and I think we would have had a much different outcome. I mean, we actually had a decent day rushing. The entire team combined for 19 carries, 100 yards, averaging 5.3 a carry, which isn't that bad, I'd at least say, but nobody had more than 4 carries. So I think you would see some difference there. I mean, so everybody essentially got a reception on this team on Saturday. So it would be a completely different situation in the regular season, because that's a game that actually counts. It's not a game where they're trying to figure out who's going to make the team and who's gonna get cut.
Do you see any positives at all? Any positive takeaways from anybody that you saw? Did you even watch the entire game? Because here's what happened. The game was so bad and the first half was so uninteresting, I just couldn't watch it. And there was a developing story, in town with the Tigers game, knowing that they were playing an important game versus the Angels, and there was a story developing. So I watched basically the first half, and I wanted to see if Rudock started the second half. When he didn't, click, I basically turned it off. And I tweeted out to one of the media members, Justin Rogers, and I said, how pissed should fans be looking at what the hell we were watching on a scale of 1 to 10? I'm like, I'm really kind of at a 6.5. I'm kind of expecting this, being that I'm a pessimistic Lions fan. And he was like, 10 for watching it. The media was tweeting about cannot believe they were watching this game, that it was so bad, that exactly everyone got excited. And Matt Shepard was like, we got a weapon, talking about our kicker. That's the level of excitement we have to get for an NFL preseason game, was talking about a kicker. Get the hell out of here with that.
I think
he said 10. 10 being everyone should have been pissed to even spend any time watching that.
And I don't think you should be. You should know going in you're watching a preseason game. You're not watching a regular season game, people. Come on. Can you get behind me just a little bit? How can you really be pissed about watching a preseason game?
Because, Jason, it wasn't bad. It wasn't like you had one, false start.
I'd be pissed if I paid to go see a preseason game. I don't want to pay, but I wouldn't stoop that low to pay full price to go preseason game. I'll go down and I'll buy from a scalper for $20 if I really want to see a preseason game. Otherwise, you shouldn't be mad. This is preseason football. You're going to see Jake Rudock. You're going to see George Wynn. You're going to see Jace Billingsley. You're not going out there to see 4 quarters of Matt Stafford. You're not going to see Amir Abdullah and Marvin Jones and Golden Tate.
But see, when you watch the preseason, you want to see guys step up a little bit that are competing for jobs. You've seen a little bit that Cole Wick is developing ever so slowly, but he's still making key mistakes. You're still seeing an offensive line that's trying to, build trying to make key plays and develop holes for these running backs. You want to see what these guys can do. And you got to remember, not everybody that is going to perform is going to make the team. You want to see what these guys are doing. And so when you don't score an offensive touchdown, and you got to remember, the Detroit Lions' entire offensive unit, their number one guys have yet to score a touchdown in the preseason. You'd like to at least see it once. But, Jason, you got to remember why people are so agitated and frustrated with the Lions. It's not because of what they're seeing now. You got to remember, there's new management, there's new players, there's constant turnover. The Lions are cursed. But not the way you think, where they're always going to be, have a bad team, bad stuff happens to them. they're cursed because they have such a poor history that everyone remembers it, and it's so close to them that whenever anything bad happens, I'll tell you, it happened 2 years ago, the first game. I did it. It happened last year, the first game when I tweeted out. The first mistake that happens, like a bad play or a drop pass, our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast blows up. Same old Lions, I can't believe this, sell the team, garbage. What happens is this fan base is traumatized. And they're to the point where I believe it's beyond repair. Until they win and get, back to the NFC title game, we are a traumatized fan base that is so sensitive, and we're to the point now where we just go, same old Lions. And they're so frustrated. You have some people that are frustrated, and you have some people that have just they no longer care. They have B teams, and they just go, I don't care. What's the preseason? They suck. They've always sucked. They always will suck. And so that's what a traumatized fan base looks like. And that's what the Lions fan base is. They're traumatized, and they don't know how to appropriately gauge their reactions to anything because of the history, the poor history. And I don't even blame them anymore. I get like that. The first time Stafford throws a pick, I'm off the bandwagon. And that's just the way it is. Jason, you can't sell positivity when there is none. There's no playoff appearances. There's no tangible thing you can grasp that's successful. Key plays, yeah. Key good players, good. Wins, good. But and talk about the big-time stuff, it's not there. There's too many weird things that have happened to this organization that I've never seen before. And this team is traumatized. And that's why everyone reacts that way.
Then there's really no way that I can get through to these people then. It's literally, I can spin everything every which way. And I'm not saying that the Lions are going to go 16-0, and I'm not saying that they're going to make it to the NFC title game. But what I do say is that there's always a chance in the NFL, and it isn't even week one.
For everybody else. There's always a chance, Jason? Okay, there's always a chance. Yeah, the Lions always, have a draft. The Lions always put out a team. But again, until they show it this year, so this game one is going to be important because the Colts are getting some injuries in their secondary. So the Lions have a chance maybe to kind of be, get some luck turned their way. And so that's why people react the way, and that's the context in which I can provide for you, and why, in terms of why the Lions fans either say, I don't care about the preseason, don't let it bother you, or they react so aggressively. There is no middle ground with this team. This Detroit Lions team,
that's the problem.
There's no middle ground.
There should be a middle ground.
You can't.
I get it. It's dumb. I'm not calling fans dumb. I'm not. What I'm saying is that realistically, there should be a middle ground for fans. And I get it. The Lions have hurt you. And they're like, I was going to make a bad analogy, but they're like something that basically, if it's like the cheese with that it's electrocuted, that you go to get the piece of cheese and you get electrocuted. And then you see a piece of cheese, you go, oh, a piece of cheese, and you get electrocuted again. So you're numb to it. You just assume that if you go reach for that piece of cheese, or that you go hope for the Detroit Lions, that they're just going to burn you. Realistically, on any other NFL team, probably there's a middle ground. You have fans who are way off the deep end. You have fans who are way too optimistic, and I feel like I am that middle ground Detroit Lion fan where I have all the history. I know what's happened with the Detroit Lions.
How do you erase that from your memory?
I don't erase it from my memory. I live with it, but I can at least see what's on the team and see that there's possibility here. If you want to point out one player from this preseason who I think you can look at positively is Dwayne Washington, a running back you got in the 7th round. He's not going to be the starter, but it's a positive move. It's something that we haven't seen where we've gotten somebody from the 7th round or an undrafted free agent and been able to. He may be nothing, but he has the possibility to be good. You saw in the kickoff return for touchdown. He has that breakaway speed, but he also has he could just be the everyman player that he does. He's on kickoff returns, on the kickoff coverage. And that's a type of player that the Lions need to be drafting. I think that's one player that you can look at positively, and there's hope. If fans would just hold on, maybe not react so violently, after the first Matthew Stafford interception, there could be real change in Detroit for the fans.
Okay, see, I think knowing that there's a history, it's just hard to be a middle ground person and be like, okay, that they're going to be effective. They're going to correct the mistakes. When you see all the penalties, when you see Matthew Stafford kind of looking sullen on the sidelines, he doesn't look excited anymore, and you see what they were able, and then you go, okay, as a competitor, as just a person, a fan watching, you go, okay, the Lions in Game 2, they get drummed. You know, they don't play very well versus Cincinnati. You think, okay, Game 3, it's a game that they tell the fans and everybody, it's most resembles a regular season game. And then you play like that, and it kind of resembles what the Lions look like in a regular season game. You go, oh, wow, there's so many penalties. You know, they don't score any points. They do put up a touchdown, and it gets taken away by a penalty. And you go, well, I've seen this song and dance before. And you just go, well, this is probably what they're going to show. And here's the part that I think fans, you know, when I ask you what's a middle ground, is I think we just have to kind of take it one game at a time. Like everybody else, just go, okay, what's the matchup versus Indy going to look like? And you have a realistic chance to go to Indy September 11th and win the game.
Chuck Pagano came out and said that his offensive line is as bad as it was last year. You got to be excited about that with Ziggy Ansah and the emergence of Devin Taylor. You got to be happy about that. And like you said, with their secondary, I'm not saying the Stafford's going to go out and throw for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. I hope, because I'm going to be at that game. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, see, that's the part that people get mad about when they see the multiple penalties that occur in the red zone. When Amir Abdullah gets in the end zone, you want to see him, you know, score and have a good time, and there's a holding call. And you get a situation where you just go, okay, in key moments, are the Lions going to be one of those teams finally that makes that key play, that does the thing, and that don't beat themselves? I think that's the hardest part for fans to really get a hold of and really tangibly believe, is that will this Detroit Lions team not beat themselves? Something that you just said, and that I'm going to grasp onto and really hope for, is that if you're looking for a positive in the first 3 preseason games, that defensive line looks somewhat together, and they look like they could do some damage under the tutelage of Terrell Austin. And he's a guy that seems very composed when he speaks. He seems like he's putting together an attitude for these defense, you know, for the guys that are playing defense, that is, hey, get after it, show a bunch of effort, and we will have results. And I do believe that. I don't think that the Lions are going to get crushed in too many regular season games, that they're going to be in within a touchdown to 10 points. In many of the games, it's just in crunch time, who's going to step up late in games when it counts, when it's 3rd and 3, and you need to get the first down, or you need to stop the opponent from getting a first down. Are they going to make that key play? And there's going to be, I really believe, this year, the margin of victory or losses is going to be within a touchdown the majority of the games. I have to believe that, based upon the talent and the schedule that they have.
It all depends on what the team can do. I will comment on, so the Lions made 10 cuts, and they got down to 78 men. They needed to cut 3 more people, and I kind of think that those last 3 cuts they're almost already spoken for. I know you have Jimmy Landis is going on injured reserve. Brandon Pettigrew may go on injured. He may come off of injured, but he's definitely a candidate. Corey Fuller is already designated to go on injured reserve. And I think the one player you look at, Matthew Mulligan, the tight end that we brought in, they cut him. It really is a big question mark at tight end right now. I'm not really sure what they're planning on doing. Eric Ebron is still trying to work his way back from that foot injury. Pettigrew hasn't really participated yet. He's coming back from his December ACL tear. And it leaves us with Andrew Corliss, who's suspended for the first 2 games, and Cole Wick. I mean, are you concerned at all about this at all? It's just more of a question mark, in that there really is no, Jim Caldwell hasn't come out and there's no clarification. That's one thing that I'd like to know what they plan on doing, unless they're just trying to keep everything close to the vest and whatever. That's what the Lions want to do nowadays.
No, that's the new era with Bob Quinn, is that they're going to try to keep everything under wraps. Justin Rogers kind of revealed it a little bit too, in that another podcast site tweeted to them and tweeted to Justin Rogers and said, hey, it's kind of interesting to see this defenseman in the dime package. And he's like, yeah, we've seen it in practice, but we're not allowed to tweet that out, that we're seeing different guys slotted in different, defensive pairings and different in dime, nickel, things like that. You can't tweet that out anymore. It's restricted. The league-wide
Yeah, I read somewhere that like the Lions, the availability for practice for the media has been even slimmed down even more this year. That
we knew that, and we knew that because we used to talk to Josh Kastenstein quite a bit, and he told us about the struggles. Basically, you're getting canned answers. Jim Caldwell's not revealing much, and they're trying to keep more and more under wraps. And you're not going to get to know who's going to win position battles. You're not going to get to know some of the information, some of the questions that we want to know aren't even asked anymore because you're not even going to get the answer. So it's really tough, and I know that you have a lot of questions regarding a lot of different positions, but you just aren't going to know. You just have to look for depth charts. And something that I wanted to point out in terms of why you should pay attention to the preseason, a guy like Curley doesn't play a single snap versus Baltimore. Guess what happens?
gets traded.
He gets traded, and we get a guy that can maybe fill some need in terms of the offensive line.
He's going to be he'll be a backup offensive lineman. Another cut that I think at least is promising, or maybe that's just a trend that the team is trying to go younger. They cut cornerback Cresden Butler, which I think that kind of points to the sign that the second-year cornerback Alex Carter, who missed all of last season, is going to earn a position on this team. And he was a player going into last year before we thought he was going to be hurt. I think people were excited about him. He's another tall receiver, and you saw the kind of cornerbacks who come out of Stanford. You see Richard Sherman. I'm not saying Alex Carter is Richard Sherman, but he has the same kind of look as him.
And so another guy that we can point to is having a pretty decent preseason and had a really solid showing versus Baltimore is rookie defensive end Anthony Zettel. He's a guy that's causing turnovers. He seems like he's an energy guy, and he's going to really make a strong case to make this team. And I think he's going to be somebody that you can plug in there in a backup role and provide some depth. So
he's going to be one of those guys who's right on the bubble, because I think we have just a ton of defensive line players, and who knows? It'll probably be between him and a veteran guy. And so I assume you want Zettel on the team.
I do. I like guys like him, the way he plays and the way he can create turnovers and wreak havoc for the defense. I like a guy like that. I think he'll make the team. I think he'll do a good job too. Terrell Austin's kind of building a reputation in terms of being a really solid defensive coordinator, and guys are progressing in his scheme. So I like that. That's what I've been pining for such a long time, in that I want a system, a solid defensive and offensive system in place where you can just plug and play different guys. But, I just scrolled down. I was checking the Detroit news feed, and guess who I saw that was signed by the Indianapolis Colts?
Oh, a guy that I hate?
Exactly. You said Stephen Ridley stunk and that he didn't deserve a spot on this team. You didn't understand why he was even brought here. Dude, he walked away with a couple $100,000 just to sign here? That's awesome, dude. That's great. And he gets another deal. He signed for a signing bonus. It was guaranteed money. It doesn't cost the Lions too much to cut him. So they cut Stephen Ridley, and you're like, I knew that already. You were like, he sucked. So now I see ex-Lion Stephen Ridley signs with the Colts. You know it. I'm fatalistic. The first thought that I had, over under 2 touchdowns for Ridley game 1.
No way. No, he's not going to see. You might see him 1 or 2 carries. I think unless Frank Gore goes down, you're not going to see. You're not going to see him at all. And as we said, with the defensive line, the way it's been playing, I think they're going to have a tough time running the ball, and you're going to see Andrew Luck kind of scrambling for his life a lot.
With the Detroit Lions, we all get a little bit jumpy. We all get a little bit irrational with them. But, hey, the 4th preseason game is a waste. Nobody's going to play. It's just one of those things now where we got to just kind of peek at the news wire and see who's going to make the team, who gets cut, who's going to make the final 53-man roster. If someone gets cut, do they clear waivers? Who's going to fill out that practice squad for the Lions? But relatively speaking, you have to watch the preseason at least to see who's playing and who's getting some reps, because that's kind of a sign as to what the coaches are seeing and maybe what kind of plays and what kind of packages that certain people might fit into. Yes, it's vanilla. Yes, you're not seeing everything. But I do believe there is value in watching the preseason. But yeah, I do believe that a lot of people have kind of devalued it and are either taking it way too seriously or not paying attention at all. But game 1 is upon us, very close, September 11th.
I'll be there.
You will be there.
I am. My brother, he got me an early 30th birthday present, and he's going to be taking me. We're going to go Saturday. We're going to see Notre Dame versus Nevada. But that's really cool. And then we're going to go to Indianapolis and see the Lions opening day.
Go Lions! Yeah!
You might actually hear me on TV if you turn it up really loud. Go Lions! Yeah!
That's going to be awesome. Sweet. You can do a couple tweets from there, take some nice pictures, and it's going to be a great trip. You're turning 30 this year. When's your birthday? One month.
September 17th.
September 17th.
We're weeks away.
So the Lions will be 0-1 and already ruined your birthday. I can't believe you would spend it watching the Lions.
It's about the adventure, and it's about spending time with my brother. We've done this a number of times of traveling to go see the team that we love, even though that they numerous times they hate us, and we've seen losses, we've seen wins, we've seen we were there, the Falcons, game 1 when we went 0-16. We had high hopes for that game. Before the game, we were like traveling on their public transit system. We're like, dude, Calvin Johnson's gonna get like 3 touchdowns. It's gonna be crazy, and that got shot down immediately. We were there for the Titans game a couple years ago when I think Schwartz was still there, and he had them go 4th and 1. It went to overtime, and they went 4th and 1 on the goal line, and they didn't get it. And we went to Green Bay. We saw a loss there, but whatever. They're the team that I love, and I will be more on the side of an optimist. I always will be.
Indianapolis, to me, doesn't seem like a rough and tumble town. You're going to represent the Honolulu Blue. In Indy, you're going to wear Lions gear?
I think I will. I think I'll probably wear the shirt that I have on right now. It's just a plain Lions shirt. There's Chicago. We were a little hesitant. We had heard bad things about Chicago fans. In Green Bay, I had my Old English D hoodie on, and we're smart about it. Atlanta fans were actually really nice. I had my Ernie Sims jersey on, and they're like, oh, he's a good player. Yeah, Ernie Sims not a good player.
So what 1 or 2 things are you really excited to see game 1, September 11th, on the road versus Indy? What do you want to see? To walk away feeling like, okay, this is a good time and something that you're looking forward to seeing.
I want to see the offense minimize mistakes. If I want to see just Matt Stafford connect with his receivers, Marvin Jones, Golden Tate, even TJ Jones. I want to see him get involved before Anquan Bolden, and see what the running game can do. Is Amir Abdullah healthy? Can he be productive? And if not, who are they going to go to? Are they going to give the ball to the Z train, or are they going to give Dwayne Washington a chance? That's what I'm most excited to see and see what they do. You're kind of looking
for more of that pass back and forth kind of thing.
Here's what's going to happen. The Lions are going to get out to a 21-3 lead. First half, they're going to play great. The fans are going to be all excited. Dwayne Washington's going to score. Amir Abdullah is going to get a touchdown. Stafford's going to throw one to Golden Tate. All is good. Second half comes around, it's going to be a game. It's going to go to overtime. Jim Caldwell's going to have to make a decision on 4th and 1, and he's going to punt the ball away. In that punt, something weird is going to happen. Indianapolis is going to take that punt in overtime and win the game. 27-21.
I hope you're not willing to bet on that. That's a ridiculous scenario.
No, it's on tape. A big lead. We've done a lot of things, but big leads blown, I don't think we've seen too much. We've seen just abysmal performances, but I don't recall too many where we've been up like 28 points or 35 points and lost. So that's the next phase in the evolution of a crazed Lions fan, is to start seeing success and then seeing epic failure. So we shall see. As long as it's not another Hail Mary, devastating loss, I think you'll be okay no matter what happens. It's only game 1.
Only game 1, and we have 16 more games to go. We aren't even in regular season, and people are counting out these Lions. I'm not counting them out, but we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about my weekend, the fun that I had on Saturday, and the not-so-fun thing that happened at Comerica Park. You're listening to the Motor City Sports Rant on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
That's right, Jason. You're listening to the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. And what we are, for those that are new listeners, we're a series of podcasts that talks about all things Detroit sports. Yes, we talk about other things that are entertaining as well, but what we do is we provide daily podcasts dedicated to Detroit sports. We're uncensored, unfiltered. We have no rules. We are not restricted by the FCC. We can turn on the mics and say whatever we want. That's why podcasting has taken off. That's why you see a lot of podcast networks like Podcast One. You see the success of the Adam Carolla Show, Joe Rogan. And the reason why this medium is taking off, for those of you that haven't checked into podcasts, is that it's on demand. You can listen to Jason and I tell jokes, have laughs, kind of talk about the Lions in funny ways. And if you want, pause it, come back to it later. Whereas if you listen to radio, potentially sports radio, and you find something funny and you miss it, hey, you might not ever get a chance to hear it again. Whereas a podcast, you can put us away and come back and relive all the fun moments and passionate moments from the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Our entire network has been archived via YouTube, and you can go there and check out what we thought when Jim Caldwell was hired, what we thought when Brad Ausmus was hired and retained and not fired. All the events that have happened in the last 3 years in Detroit sports is archived. So check out our network. We have a good time, from Jerry on Monday with the Hindsight 20 podcast, with Vito, the Tigers Talk podcast that comes out every Wednesday. Jason and I do a podcast, comes out each and every Tuesday, the Motor City Sports Rant. Doc and Jock, the longest running weekly episodic podcast, going strong since September 2013, 159 episodes. I think we're creeping on 160. You have the Fantasy Nerds podcast. Jason is the king of fantasy football. And you have the Vinny Stubbs show. We're trying our best to get him to record every week, but the man's in demand, has a good time. And hey, when you got the numbers like him, why do you got to record every week? Give the people what they want. But hey, also, let them wait a little bit. Maybe if he records every 2 weeks, you guys are listening, so I know you do care about the Vinny Stubbs show as well. Check out DetroitSportsPodcast.com. We also have a lot of periodic specials, and we're trying to book for the season premiere a lot of new one-on-one interviews with those that are working in the sports field around town. Check us out, DetroitSportsPodcast.com, our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. Thank you for your support.
Welcome back to the Motor City Sports Rant on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. John, I had an interesting Saturday as well. You were celebrating your 6th wedding anniversary, and I went out. It was my first ever. Me and a group of friends, we went for a Detroit pub crawl.
Why?
Really, Vinny? You had to ask why to drink?
Explain to me. And something, being a guy, I understand why people like alcohol. I understand why the bar scene around town. I understand why Royal Oak is so awesome and bumping. You see new clubs and new bars all around town. They're sprinkling. They're opening up all over. But I'm a guy that's relatively simple in that I kind of just like to pick one place, go, enjoy the atmosphere, watch the game, order from there, and enjoy the night there. I don't get the concept of like going to a bar, opening a tab, having something there, then walking to the next bar, which is maybe right next door, and ordering basically the same thing. There are differences in levels of bars in terms of what you call a dive bar and other places that have great selection of alcohol, premium stuff, or based upon the clientele. If you're a young single gentleman like Vinny and you're looking to, meet Mrs. Right for the for the evening,
Mrs. Stubbs,
to look for Mrs. Stubbs for the next couple hours, I get all that. But to bar hop, explain it to me. I don't get the joy in that. I've never done it, so I can't really speak on it, but I don't understand. Why do people bar hop?
I will have to say, going into it, I had my reservations, and I wasn't.
Why?
Because, again, kind of like you, it's not what I do. I don't, it's not something where I don't like a lot of walking, and especially if I'm drinking profusely. I think you have to go in with the mindset of what you're doing. If you're going to a bar and you want to sit there for the evening and watch some sporting events, maybe you go there on a Sunday to watch all the football over the day. Yeah, that's not the ideal time to do a bar crawl. This was more. It was a social event for a group of friends. We don't really get together too much throughout the year, so it was just a time to get together and to really just enjoy our company. And it was going to a bunch of places that we haven't really been in downtown Detroit. As up until Saturday, my bars going downtown, I'd been to the Baltimore and the Well, which were both pretty big shitholes. And we've been to Greektown, but outside of that, haven't been to a ton of places. So we started out. We started out in Campus Martius. They have a bar there, right there, on the beach area, called the Fountain. And really, we didn't overdo it. We got one drink at pretty much every place, and it's not a place that you would go to open up a tab. It's something that you got to bring cash for these kinds of things, because they're going to give you one bill for the entire table, and you just put down your money for your one drink, and maybe if you got an appetizer or something. So we went to the fountain, and then we went over to Punch Bowl Social, which is that's a very cool place. That's a place where you really could spend an entire day. They got a ton of stuff there. It'd be a good bar to drink and watch some sporting events, and they have bowling, and they have a bunch of video games. Played some pinball. I destroyed my friends in foosball. If anybody wants to donate me a foosball table, I would love it. I kill people at it. We waited out the rain there, and then we traveled to Grand Trunk Pub. They're all in the relatively same area. We didn't have to walk too far. Grand Trunk, really good beer, really good food. I got a burger with corned beef on it, delicious. From there, we went to the Keep. It's a really cool small bar with a bunch of craft drinks, and then we went to Corktown. Then from there, we ended the night in the Mercury Burger Bar. And then the rest of the crew kind of finished up the night. But it's something where you're going in the mindset. You're not going to get hammered drunk. It's not some place where you're going to just, get blitzed. It was more about being around with friends and just for the experience.
So it's about getting out with friends, hanging out, having a good time, seeing the different ambiance and feel of different places within a relatively short time, in a relatively minor, in a relatively close distance with things. So
and the biggest distance we moved it to Corktown because there is some really good pubs and places to go there. I forgot the one place that was probably the coolest place we went to, called The Skip, and it's literally if you know where CompuWare building is.
Yep.
And the Z parking lot, the gigantic Dan Gilbert graffiti filled parking lot. In between that and the Punch Bowl Social area, there's an alleyway that it's not just a regular Detroit alley now. It's actually a safe alley that you can walk down. It kind of looks like something you'd see in like Europe, where it's like an alley that's there's art all around, and there's an open air bar in there called The Skip. Really cool place. I would suggest it would be and they have TVs there. That'd be a fun place to go downtown and maybe start a tailgate off.
Okay. For me, it's just not my thing. I know that there's, party buses that advertise.
Oh, trust me. It's not something that I'm going to do all the time. I'm not even sure if they want to do it next year. I'm not sure if I want to do it because we're going to have some other things to deal with next year. But yeah, this all started, we were looking at doing that, the big trolley where it's
you ride and pedal, or you're just sitting and
we
go around
essentially
drink.
did the same thing, but we saved ourselves about $600 because it was a big waste of time. We saw a bunch of people lining up to do that, and it was a mess. It looked like a mess.
Really?
Yeah. Some of them you can't even drink on it, and I think that would be the appeal to me. And I remember when we got down there, we were stuck behind one, so we kind of had to maneuver our way around there. But yeah, it's not something to do because we were there from 2 to we left at 10:30 because at that point we were done.
So it sounded like you conducted yourself like an adult. You didn't drink too much. You didn't get in a fight with your wife. You didn't get in a fight with your brother in front of everybody. You didn't throw any money down and storm off and cause a scene. You had a good time, just went to a couple different places, tried something different, and you went to about, like you said, 10 bars?
Yeah. 10 bars in total. We made it to 8. We missed the last 2. I had worked in the morning at 6 a.m., so by 10:30 I was ready to go.
Okay, maybe it sounds like a fun thing to do as long as you do it responsibly and things like that. And downtown, I was there. It's very nice. It's there's a lot of things to do, a lot of great restaurants. The new stadium looks sweet. The M1 rail, whenever they fix that, it's going to be awesome to get around downtown. It was just a good time. And so we walked by the Riverwalk, earlier this morning, and so it was nice. It was nice to see, the city being vibrant, and we got a chance to get through the Renaissance as well. And you get a chance to see, the hustle and bustle and seeing all these people in professional attire working it's nice to see downtown being a little bit more vibrant.
Did you get lost in the Renaissance Center?
We just went right from the back to the front. No, I've been through it before. I kind of know the Renaissance pretty good.
Yeah, I've been there a couple times, and I can see how it's very easy to get lost in that place. There's just a bunch of circling just levels.
Dude, I would have never gone downtown as much as I did. But when the Super Bowl came to Detroit, they really cleaned it up. You hear about what they did. They took the people that were a little bit, less well off and put them into shelters and kind of cleaned it up really for the Super Bowl, to put on a brave face for the Super Bowl, but I got a chance to see the ESPN set and what they did when the national media converged on Detroit and all the parties that happened and, you know, the broadcast sites and stuff. So I went to the Renaissance and kind of checked it out, the ins and outs, and my wife and I frequented the spinning restaurant there at the top of the Renaissance quite a bit. And for New Year's, we'd stay there from time to time. So I'm familiar with, I'm getting really, I can almost be an Uber driver downtown because I kind of know the area now, kind of walking it and getting through from hotel to hotel and things like that.
I think you got enough on your plate here, Doc.
Yeah. Add another career to be an Uber driver?
Yeah. But also on Saturday night, I had a crazy night. The Tigers had a crazy night. You want to set this up for me, Doc?
Let me set this up. You have a situation where you won the first game in the series versus Los Angeles, and you're just coming off of a sweep of Minnesota. You're dominating. You're playing very well. And you got a guy that, by all accounts, is your ace, Michael Fulmer, pitching. And he started off pretty good. The Tigers gave him a lead. Then he gives up a 2-run bomb to some nobody that isn't a known commodity in this league. And then all of a sudden, it started happening. You started seeing, like, what the hell is going on here with the pitching? And you've seen a situation where on Saturday night, you know, this umpire Everett just made a mockery of the game. And the first person that complained was Victor Martinez. He's arguing balls and strikes, and you can tell he's getting pissed. And the thing that most people are pointing to and looking at is that Brad Ausmus didn't really run out there and try to save a guy that's a key member of your team. And he's chirping, and Everett had enough at that point, threw him out of the game. Well, Victor Martinez didn't take too kindly to that. This is a guy that's not known as a troublemaker, but he was heated. And in the dugout, he took his helmet and took something and threw it onto the field, and he was pissed. He was livid. And so throughout the game, the Tigers, the fans who attended that game, were just unhappy completely in that game, and they're booing the umpire. Joyner, Ausmus also get tossed. JD gets tossed, and so the game became more about the sideshow of the umpire. And when you looked at it, the calls just weren't consistent. He didn't maintain control of the game, and he made himself a story. You're not supposed to know the name of the umpire, and now I know this guy's name. And
how many umps do the Tigers know now?
We know a lot of them, and so I tweeted out, and I said, hey, what's going on here with refs screwing the Lions, making bad calls all the time, and now umpires? And it was just a mess, a complete mess of a situation that occurred over the weekend. And it brings up a lot of points in regards to, hey, should maybe Victor have kept his cool in that situation because you need him to win? The Tigers went on to lose that game, and then they went on to lose the series. So that was tough. You know, you were counting on Fulmer to do the job because you had Sanchez going on Sunday, and that guy fades quickly. Ausmus on Sunday made another questionable call in terms of how long he kept Sanchez in the game. You question Ausmus for his control of the team, you know, having JD Martinez and Victor Martinez ejected from a game when you're in contention. Is that something that makes you concerned out there if you're listening? Or do you say, hey, these umpires are so terrible that you have to complain? In my opinion, people are starting to whisper, and it might need to be talked about that maybe, just maybe, this Fox track or some kind of technology might need to be put in place to control what the hell these guys are doing.
Yeah, and I think there's always going to be a place for umpires and refs in baseball. I don't think you can completely take the human element out of the game, but I think they need to find some sort of balance. You need to find some way to get replay correct and get it in a timely fashion, because I think fans would love to see, you know, managers be able to challenge a pitch, maybe challenge a strike here or there. But when you bring that up, then it just slows the game down. And I think over the last 5 to 10 years, you've seen the league try to do as much as they can to speed up the game. And whenever you bring in replay, it's always just gonna slow it down. And as we've seen in the last couple of years, they haven't even gotten the call right every single time when they do go to the replay. So the league needs to figure out the balance. They need to find out the right balance between having umps and then having the Fox tracks or whatever you want to call it.
See, the problem is, though, people are questioning, well, is it accurate? How many times should you be able to challenge? What is the role of the human element in baseball? I'm a purist. I don't want to see robots controlling the game. I think it could add to it, maybe to kind of peek at it, maybe to improve the umpires, to maybe review with them, use it as a way to teach them where, games, if you hire more maybe, and you can take weekends to kind of go over some games and go over what they're doing. You want to see umpires evolve. It just seems like every year we say these umps suck as a unit and we just get the best of the guys that blow. You would think that as a unit, umpires would want to stop being criticized and call balls and strikes as they are in the rule book. There is a rule book. Call balls and strike consistently. And there's been situations where these umps have had such awful strike zones on both sides that you go, seriously, if you're going to call 2 inches off the plate left and right, forget these guys can't hit the ball.
I think you nailed it right in the head. The umps need to evolve. As the game has changed, I don't think the umps they haven't evolved. They haven't, upgraded to the times. They aren't up to the standard. As the league has gotten, 10, 15 years ago, you don't see guys striking out the pitchers striking out as many guys as they are nowadays. It's a completely different league with the way guys are just crushing balls nowadays. And it's not going to happen overnight. It's not something that they're going to be able to change immediately unless they went to having an all robot staff and have everything done by Fox tracks and with cameras. Unless they're going to do that, it's going to take time to get good refs in there and to weed out the guys who are making the bad calls.
See, it's just one of those things where you see a problem and you want to address it. It just isn't happening. And it's one of those things where it's going to continue to pop up. Do you think a guy like Victor Martinez should have kept his emotions in check? Do you blame him? Do you blame JD for chirping? Like, listen.
I think it's you can argue it both ways. I think knowing where the Tigers are, any veteran should know to keep their head. And you don't really expect to see that out of Victor Martinez. And I know there was the question if Brad Ausmus should have went out there to really rein him in, so we could keep Victor in this game. Maybe if Victor doesn't get tossed out, you don't see JD get tossed out. So there's a lot of ripples that it just changes. So I think going forward, I don't know. How long have I been saying that this team is just going to be a roller coaster?
It's going to be a roller coaster, I think.
And that's what they've been the past couple of weeks. Last week we said, what do they need to do to get you on board? And I feel like we're in the exact same place. They're roller coaster. They get your hopes up with 4 wins in a row, and then they lose 2. It's really all tied to their hitting. Can they produce enough runs?
Exactly. Now, as we're recording this, they're trailing 2-1 after Boyd's given up 6 hits, and he got it basically out of a jam a little bit, but he still gave up 2 runs. We're trailing 2-1 as we record this, but it's a situation where you got to beat the teams like the Minnesota Twins and the Chicago White Sox. You got to.
They have 9. They have 9 games. They're going to have to. They need to go at least 6-3 to stay in contention, I think.
Yeah, and you have a tough series coming up, I think, on the weekend versus Kansas City. You're looking at a situation with the Tigers where now it's crunch time. We're near September, and it's go time. You're going to need Zimmerman back. You're going to need these horses to come back and do some things for you because you're going to face the Indians about 7 more times, and you're going to have to really fight for this wild card with all that you've got. And when you're counting on so many young pitchers, and I guess the other concern that we have is Michael Fulmer fading? Because if you don't have Fulmer firing on all cylinders, then it's going to be definitely hard to make a push to get to the postseason because Fulmer's last 3 performances now haven't been as great as the start of the year, and it might be the time where he's hit the rookie wall.
Well, they are giving him a little bit more rest. His next start is going to be on Saturday, so they'll give him 6 days rest. And who knows? Yeah, apparently he's clean shaven now. I don't.
Say what?
Yeah, I don't support it because I fully support beards, but you know what? He has had a string of rough starts. Maybe you just need to switch something up. And I think baseball players are creatures of habit. They have just these weird tendencies. Maybe they don't wash their underwear. Didn't Leland not wash his underwear for the entire 2006 season or something like that? Maybe he needs to get back in the right mindset. It'll be definitely a big test at Kansas City. So we'll see. I mean, you got to hope that Fulmer's going to come back or return to his form because if he is done, the Tigers are likely done.
Can you believe maybe it's time to maybe peek into what Peter Gammons has been doing and saying? The national media has kind of had some takes that have made you go, what the hell are they thinking? Peter Gammons came out and was like, well, looking at what the Tigers are doing, they're still relatively close. If the Tigers make the postseason, Brad Ausmus should be considered for AL Manager of the Year. And when he said that, I think right after he tweeted it or wrote that report, as soon as he hit send, Detroit and our Twitter page blew up. Like, are you serious? Brad Ausmus is nowhere near Manager of the Year quality.
There are people who think like that, though.
You know,
it's crazy.
But I can understand that take when you go, well, look at all the injuries. Look at what's happening with this team. When you don't watch day to day and you don't watch every single choice that he's making, that you could say, well, look, he's kept it together. They're above 500. Look, he could be Manager of the Year candidate. But when you watch games over the weekend like I did and everybody else intently and with criticism on your mind and looking intently at the choices and how it's affecting the team, he makes a lot of mistakes that are hurting the team. The game Sunday, he kept Sanchez in there way too long. You don't let Vmart and JD get ejected. You got to have some control. He doesn't make choices that are sometimes within reason with the numbers and sabermetrics. So Peter Gammons, when he made that comment, really you can tell maybe just hasn't been watching day in and day out. And you just go, well, okay. But Brad Ausmus, in my mind, nowhere near AL Manager of the Year. But even if he does get to the postseason, he's in a no-win spot because it's $200 million payroll. He's got talent on this team.
If Ausmus gets this team to the postseason, I can at least understand at that point re-signing him because he was able to turn it around with not a whole lot. What I'm most worried about right now is if this team misses out in the postseason, there's going to be a lot of people who actually want Ausmus to come back.
Oh my God, no.
There is an argument for it. I'm not for that at all. And at this point, it's almost kind of like the Rick Carlisle firing, where you need to get a better coach who can get this team to where it needs to be. Rick Carlisle wasn't a bad coach for the Pistons, but we just needed to get Larry Brown to win the championship. And Ausmus, he's done a great job getting this team back into contention, because I think at the beginning of the season, in the first couple months, we have pretty much written him off. And to be even still in contention with the losing streaks that we've had in the past couple months is amazing. But the guy just doesn't have it, and I think it would be a complete mistake to re-sign him if we miss the postseason.
100% agree. I thought it was a mistake from day one. I thought it was a mistake to keep him in the 2016 season with all that's on the line. And if they don't make the postseason, if they fade in September, forget about it. There's no way you keep Brad Ausmus. All right, we're going to do, before we end this podcast, a couple big hitters on some big sports topics that have hit the landscape. We'll get your quick takes right now. Your thoughts on Colin Kaepernick and, not standing up for the national anthem to kind of really hit home the point of equality and racism and oppression in the United States.
So my stance is that it's his right. If he wants to do that, he's entitled to do that. I don't support him. I do think that people kind of overblew it. He came out and everyone really took it as a shot at really the U.S. military, that he doesn't support the troops, and that he doesn't support the troops, and we look at what all that America's given him. And he came out and he said that that's not the case. That the reason that he's doing it is really, it's linked to the racial oppression in America, and it really, you can't question that. We've seen all the stuff that's happened just in the past couple months of horrible stuff. So I think he could have gone about it in a better way. I still think that there's a level of respect. It's not something that I would ever do, because I feel it's not about just the military. It is about the country, and I am grateful every day that I was born an American citizen. So I think there's a level of respect, and I think he could have done just as much with his words. But maybe he saw this as he may not have a spotlight for much longer. He may be cut by the 49ers because it's very likely Blaine Gabbert is going to beat him out for that starting position. He said that this is something that he's thought about for a while. So maybe he saw this as his opportunity to voice his opinion on what's going on. So while I think he went about it in the wrong way, I don't support not standing for the national anthem. It's a really a small gesture.
Now, Michigan State may be chirping at Michigan. Curtis Blackwell came out with a tweet last week where he said, and he's got the championships and all the returning players, those who have stayed are already champions. And so you got a guy like Harbaugh who didn't really reply to it. Is it something where Harbaugh doesn't even consider Michigan State on the radar anymore, where he's too busy looking at national topics? Should Michigan State be chirping right now when a lot of people are thinking that they're going to have a down year?
This is it's kind of perplexing on a couple levels. For me as a Michigan State fan, I get that there's people out there who they probably love this tweet, that they're just digging at Michigan. But for me, I rather see them do it on the field. I would take Mark D'Antonio with his little comments after every single time that we beat Michigan. I'll take that over these little digs, because I don't want to give Michigan any bulletin board material. It's not something that I care one way or the other. I would have preferred him not to, but I think it's also perplexing that Jim Harbaugh has stayed silent on it. This is a guy who he pretty much responds to every single criticism that's given to him. You know, we saw a week or two ago, Jim Rome criticized him for leaving an interview early, and then he immediately shot back at him on Twitter. And then we've even seen Jim Harbaugh's response on the Colin Kaepernick situation. So it's just, I don't understand what it is, why he hasn't responded about Michigan State. And I got to give him a little bit of credit, because as a coach, that's what I would want him to do. If he was my coach, I would want Harbaugh to just not say anything and prove what he's going to do on the field. But what we've seen out of Harbaugh is that he's went at everybody who's come out against him. So it doesn't make sense. And I'd love to pick his brain to see what his actual thinking on this, or maybe does he not think Michigan State is that good, or who knows? Maybe he's just planning something.
Okay, final one here. It was announced that the Broncos have their starting quarterback, Trevor Siemian, beats out Paxton Lynch, Mark Sanchez. Do you think he's going to have a decent season with the Denver Broncos under the tutelage of Gary Kubiak, and knowing that all he did last year was basically kneel down in a game last year? Do you think that the Broncos are going to turn out to have a great offensive system where you can plug in a guy like a Trevor Siemian and you have success? Is he going to be successful in Denver?
I think he has the ability to do it, because the Broncos really won the Super Bowl with a quarterback just game managing. Peyton Manning wasn't the Peyton Manning of old. He was a game manager. He was benched for parts of last season for Brock Osweiler. So I think what they've said in Denver is that Trevor Siemian, he really won the job. And I think it says a lot about Mark Sanchez, that he couldn't beat out this guy who was like a 6th round pick. I think they'll still be successful. They're built around their defense, and I think they have enough talent on offense that they really could be a decent offense. If CJ Anderson could get a little bit better, and I think what they will benefit from is having a healthy quarterback who isn't basically have the vision of a 48-year-old man.
All right, let's get out of here. I want to have my McChickens. You know that.
Gross.
Did you Google McChicken like I asked?
I did Google it. I did not look at the video.
Will you ever look at it?
Like I told you before, is that I have a strange, I want to see it, but I don't want to see it. And I think what will win out, I think just you telling me not to watch it, I'm not going to watch it.
I have seen it, and I'm like, I will never look at the McChickens. I will never look
I've watched a lot of gross stuff.
But basically, it's not totally shocking in that I was an American Pie fan back in the day, and when you see that with the pie on film, it's kind of funny.
That has nothing. It's completely different.
But it's like
American Pie is a teen movie.
Yeah, but it's not. It's not out of the realm of possibility that people do disgusting things with food.
Oh yeah, I mean, dude,
this is a sex-crazed society. Let me tell you, there's some sexually addicted people out there.
I warn you all: don't look up the McChicken video. Don't do it unless you want to be like the doc.
Let's get the hell out of here. Good job, Jason.
Okay. I am Jason Jarvie. He's John Macaroon. Until next time, peace out.
Hey, nice idiot. F you. Bye-bye.
Good day, sir. I said good day.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Loser.